Okay, let's get straight into measuring and cutting the fabric so you could have the perfect bandana. But before we do, I just want to quickly show you most tutorials that I've seen on YouTube for this headscarf bandana look will share these kind of measurements. And I want you to know that that ends up looking like this, which is a very short, like top of your head kind of bandana. And I wanted something that's more like Pinterest, which is like authentic looking bandana that fully wraps around your hair and goes longer in the back, but has the convenience of a finished elastic band so it turns into a headband. So that's why I have created the measurements that I'm going to show you today. I've created 4 different samples to make sure that I have this pattern perfect for you. Let's get straight into it. Hello, my girl. This happens every single time that I try to do anything sewing related. You're welcome to measure and mark directly on the wrong side of your fabric with tailor's chalk or a water or heat soluble pen, but I think it's easier for you to see if I first trace it on paper. You're also welcome to do the same on any paper that you have on hand. I think it's easy if you have especially transparent paper like I do. Just tracing paper on Amazon is all I get. Cut it out and then directly lay it on your fabric like a pattern. So that's what we're going to do. So the first step is to draw a 14-inch perpendicular line. The next step is to, on either side of that line, mark at 9.5 inches away from that line. Okay, then let's do another line at 9.5 inches away from the center. So that should be a 19-inch across width. Then you're going to mark a 4.5-inch line on either side. Now it's the exciting part where you see it all come together at the point, at your 14-inch point, which I'm sorry I didn't draw very thickly. Then you're going to connect both of your side lines to the center. And you will know you did it correctly if the corner at the tip makes a perfect 90-degree angle. So you could get a perfect corner, which also involves a sewing technique that I'm going to show you. Now it's just time to cut it out from the paper, or if you marked directly on the wrong side of your fabric, you would just cut your fabric, but I'll do that next. This project is a great use of scrap fabric, so I'll be leading by example with this funny little piece of fabric that I'm using. Now to cut the elastic and the fabric that will enclose around the elastic, you're going to customize this length to the circumference of your head. So take your measuring tape and put it on as if you were putting on a headband. So with it sitting where you want your headband to sit, my head is small, 21.5 inches. Let me just double check that measurement. I think where the headband is actually going to sit is more like 21 inches. So for me, and for you, you are going to take your circumference measurement of your head and subtract 17.5, and that will be the length of your elastic. So for me, that's going to be 21 minus 17.5 is 3.5 inches. And if you want to know how I got that math, I'll put it on the screen, but I don't need to make it more complicated than it is. And by the way, I'm using 3/8 inch or 1 centimeter wide elastic, but you could use whatever you have on hand that's between 1/4 and 1/2 inch. So this is 3/8 inch between those two. Any of those widths of elastic will work. So like I said, I'm going to cut 3.5 inches of this, and then for the fabric that will fold around it, you're going to cut 2.5 inches wide times the elastic length times 2. So for me, 3.5 times 2 is 7. So 2.5 inches wide and 7 inches long is going to be the piece of fabric that I cut for my elastic encasing. Okay, to get a perfect corner, I recommend that you follow my steps exactly instead of what some tutorials do, which is just kind of roll, manually pin, sorry, my cat knocked the camera, roll, manually pin, and sew everything at once. What we're going to do instead is iron first, which many people have a heat, what's it called? Like basically a heat tolerant ruler that allows you to get a perfectly measured hem, but what I just used as the cheap version, I just took a piece of paper, drew a line at the 1/4 inch away from the edge, and then I just roll my fabric over the edge, and it helps me make sure that I'm getting a consistent 1/4 inch fold. Once you've done that, move on to the other side. Alternate sides both times that we're going to do this. One more time. The second time it's easier to do without the paper since you could already feel where the fold of the fabric underneath ends. And you just kind of try to tuck it up under the fabric evenly. Also repeat this process of folding over twice and ironing on the top edge of your bandana. Now you're going to make sure that the corners are both folded in twice, and then reinforce that edge one more time with your iron really, really well. Now when you unfold it, you should be able to see even faintly where the inner crease is of that point. Now we'll unfold so there's only one fold, not two. Sorry, I got a little ahead of myself, ignore that marking. And then where you could just faintly see the inner crease, the inner point, and you have 1 inch kind of evenly on both sides, mark straight across. Now you're going to fold in half like this and make sure that the markings on both sides line up, and we'll take it to the sewing machine. Now you just make sure that it's folded again on and the lines are matching up. And then slowly lower your needle and try to make sure that you're aligned right on that line, and then go back and forth a few times. Now just cut off the thread, and then right above that seam, maybe about 1/8 of an inch, cut it off. Now stick your finger deep into the edge and push it out. At that point, now kind of just roll it around with your fingers to try to get as all the fabric rolled out to the very tip, so it's a very sharp point. You could also put a dull object in there, although I've been ratchet and I put a sharp object in there like my scissors, and that doesn't always go well. Like this, look, I live. I just don't press too hard because then it could cut it. And now you have a sharp, very neat point, and we're gonna go back to the iron. This is really exciting. This is where you could see it all come together and your very, very crisp point. You're just going to roll your hem back over twice and reaffirm that edge with another press. Now look at how nice your corner looks. It's gonna look even better once we go hem it. Okay, now so I could have one continuous seam, I'm going to go to the far edge, not the point, and start there. align, well, at least for me, my fabric right with the edge of the presser foot. And for my settings, I want it to be, I guess, 1/8 inch seams. I'm going to go along the edge. Now, once you get to the corner, start going more slowly. And I'm going to stop right there and then hand crank the last one just to make sure I don't go past where I need. While the needle is inserted into the fabric, lift up the presser foot and turn. Oh, that's perfect. Okay, so then when I put the presser foot down, it's right aligned, it's with the edge of the fabric again, which is perfect. And then keep sewing. This ensures that the stitches at your point are very, very orderly and there's not back and forth stitches, just one in a single direction. Now back stitch as usual. Once I get to the end, pull it out and cut. And then also it's time to hem the bottom. So just like the last one, I am hemming it with 1/8 inch seam allowance. All right, there we go, you're all hemmed, and it is about to be so easy and so fast. Let's next move to the piece of fabric that's supposed to cover the elastic. Right sides together, just folded. I don't think that you need to iron or pin it unless your fabric is really ultra silky or slippery, which might be the case because that would look really good with the bandana, but I'm just working with 100% cotton, so it's stiff enough and I could easily just keep it together as I sew. So now I'm going to sew those two pieces right sides together, or that single piece folded, right sides together, and with the same seam allowance of 1/8 inch. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I just realized that I don't think it's 1/8 inch. It's 2/8 inch. Come on, girl. Yeah, this is the key. You look at your needle and measure that distance to the edge of the presser foot on whatever setting to make sure that you're actually doing the seam allowance that you're thinking. So I thought I was doing 1/8 inch. It's definitely 2/8 inch, or 1/4 inch in other words. So sorry for leading you astray. It's 1/4 inch. Next, you could either take a loop turner, one of these kind of devices, or much more readily available to most people, a safety pin, and turn that inside out. So to do that, I'm just going to put my safety pin into the edge of the part past the seam. So if I mess it up, it doesn't really matter. And then I'll turn it inside out by pressing the safety pin through. Ta-da! Okay, you don't really need to iron this, but I'm going to do it because I do think that it makes the next step a little bit easier. But before I go take this over to the iron, I'm just going to run my finger along the seam and kind of roll it like this, because I want to make sure that I get to the iron on the very edge instead of it being still kind of puffed up like that. I want to make sure that the seams are completely as separated as they could possibly be. I'm not sure I'm using the right word. Sorry, this is my first tutorial and my brain's kind of breaking, but I trust you get what I mean. I'm taking this over to the iron and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back with my safety pin and my elastic. I'm going to put the safety pin at the top of the elastic, take my fabric that I just ironed, and then insert it. But I'm not going to put it all the way through. I'm actually just going to stop right once the elastic is at the edge of this the piece of fabric, and I'll push it until it's just barely at the edge, just sticking out like a little turtle head, if you get the Austin power stroke. And then I'm going to take it back and do another 1/4 inch seam right at the edge. Again, I'm not really letting the elastic stick out more than the fabric. It's completely even with the edge of the fabric. And let's run it over 2 or 3 times. Okay, now that you have that done, snip. Then it's time to go back to feeling where the safety pin is, and now you push it all the way through. This just saves me a step of some people pin both sides and then sew it, but I think that this saves me a step. I like to avoid pins if I don't really need them because it just takes extra time. All right, now keeping the fabric bunched down here, I'm going to do the same thing, getting the elastic just to the very edge of that fabric, holding it in the middle. So there is definitely fabric left on both sides, but that's okay. And then I'm going to do that same thing with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right. Now you are seriously almost done with this project. I'm so excited for you. You're about to try this on in the mirror, and I hope feel like you look very cute and very beautiful. So there's your encased elastic. Now you are going to take your bandana, flip it so this is very important. I sewed it on the wrong way one time. Flip it so that the right side of the fabric is facing you. Set it down on your table and take the edge. This kind of tiny detail doesn't really matter, but I just like to have the seam facing the edge that the point is on. Then I'm going to push down the scrunched fabric as much as possible so this doesn't have any extra fabric around it. Place it, and you don't have to be too precise. I'm just going to place it right in the middle. Fold the top edge over, fold the bottom edge over, roll it up like a little burrito baby. And then holding this, again, if it would make you feel more comfortable to pin it, you can pin it, or especially if you're working with slippery fabric, you could do that, but I'm fine with this. I'm just going to take it over to the machine. Okay, now the seam allowance is going to be different. It's going to be deeper, so I'm going to turn my dial to a 3, and that should be a 3/8 inch seam allowance because I want the seam of the elastic piece to be encased or covered by the seam that we're about to make. All right, so close. Just do that to the other side and we're done. So to do the other side, have the put right sides together again. This is the wrong side. This is the right side. Take the piece of elastic that's now kind of showing out of this little fold and repeat the same process, making sure that it's not, that it's facing the same direction, that the elastic isn't twisted or anything like that. I am folding the top over and the bottom over. It will make this cute little burrito. And again, running over that a few times with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, this is the moment of truth. You're going to just pull it, turn it out, and all of those raw edges will be covered within the burrito. And you have this beautiful headband. Now, moment of truth, I have to try it on for you. We did it! I am so happy with this. It drapes the way that I want. It sits further up, goes further back, wraps all the way around my hair for that authentic bandana look, but it doesn't have the inconvenient tie underneath, and it's replaced by an amazing elastic. What do we think? Please tell me honestly what you think and if you're going to try this, or if you need any other tips below. I'm happy to try my hand at making a tutorial. Y'all's comments on my last video were so incredibly kind, so I couldn't wait to crank out another one for you. I hope that this tutorial will treat you well and that you enjoy making these for you, your friends, birthday and Christmas presents. It's such a good way to use scrap fabric as well for things that look really special. So I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you in the next video.